I really enjoyed this movie. A peek behind the curtain is always fun, even if it's fictional, and I'm pretty sure that very little of this is really how any of it works. The mystery element, trying to decipher the intentions and expectations of the recently deceased Pope, added to the tension and the intrigue. The twist at the end was interesting, but not really my cup of tea. Questions about how to handle intersex individuals in traditional communities that have particular views of gender assignment and responsibility is a hot-button topic of the current day, but it's just not something that speaks to me personally. I have no doubt that in the future, our descendants will look back on our arguments today and wag their heads in disgust about how blind we are to the objectively right answer. I don't make any claim to know which side is going to claim it or what events will lead to the acceptance of that victory. There are some people who believe that the conservative side is always wrong, and only the progressive side is ever right. This view is somewhat helped by what exactly the progressive side is. The progressive side, almost by definition, is the side associated with change, adopting new technology or techniques, or spreading of ideas from a higher echelon of research among experts in the field. When a progressive agenda gets squished or turns out to be unsuccessful, most often we can just go back to the way it was before, and those that were hurt in the experiment just get swept under the rug and forgotten. The times that the conservative side tried to hold back a new idea, which ultimately ended up meaning improvement for society, are on display for all to see. In those cases, there's a line in the sand, and we can see society the old way and compare it to society the new way. Slavery makes an excellent example of a time when the progressive side won, and we're all glad they did. We can clearly look at the time when slavery was the daily reality of large swaths of the world, and then when it was on the decline, and then when it was mostly eradicated. We can compare the place where this was done sooner and those that it was done later. Slavery was bad, and looking back at it we can know for sure that was the case. Yet in the moment there were a lot of people who saw the biblical support and the long pedigree of successful slave societies and were very skeptical of abolitionist movements. To my friends and enemies that stand on the conservative side of any question, familiarize yourself with the arguments of the anti-abolitionists, and be self-aware enough to recognize when you sound like them. That doesn't mean that there are no examples on the other side. Even though neither side is apt to claim it today, if we were to bring the players forward, those that supported eugenics would identify very closely with the liberal side of the equation. They were quick and forceful in their ridicule of those who held to the old way of looking at things, those that appealed to tradition and scripture, in short anyone who failed to see that their way was the one true way to go forward. They really believed that the kind of backward thinking that prevented people from fully adopting eugenics was holding humanity back. Looking back from where we are now, we recognize that those places where eugenic thinking became the norm and the law were the places where dictatorship and oppression reigned. To my friends and enemies that stand on the liberal side of any question, familiarize yourself with the arguments of the eugenicists, and be self-aware enough to recognize when you sound like them.